We are on the cusp of a major social change. Do you feel it? Even if you don't, make no mistake, change is coming, and it is going to be unforgettable. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Hart, and here on Prime Spark, where we work with and on behalf of women over 55, I want to help you find that spark that will ignite your way forward, reflect your gifts to the world, and illuminate your path through this next stage of life. Through these podcast conversations, I hope to inspire you to see how you can make a significant contribution to some of the gnarly problems that are facing us right now. Join me, and together let's discover our Prime Spark. Hi, and welcome to Prime Spark. This is Sarah Hart. I'm so happy you're here with us. Prime Spark is designed for women over 55 or close, with a goal to help us all live our happiest, most fulfilling and productive lives, now and in the future. The mission of Prime Spark is to change the way our society sees and treats older women. That's a big mission, which only means we all need to be involved and we need to get going now. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Betsy Clark, a woman whose work I greatly admire. Betsy has been a successful entrepreneur for 45 years. Previously, working in interior design, she created beauty with paint. Now she uses words, from refining spaces to reshaping lives. As a transformation coach, she now passionately assists women to embrace their distinct strengths, empowering them to find and fearlessly express their authentic voice and to boldly bring their unique strengths forward. By placing emphasis on their inherent brilliance, this helps her clients make solid decisions, take action, and create momentum to show up as they truly intend, to stand up on the inside and be unstoppable. Betsy lives in Colorado Springs with her husband and many dogs, all of whom are truly happy campers. They travel frequently in their truck camper to play with their kids and grandkids and to soak up the beauty of Colorado and the Wild West. Welcome, Betsy. I'm so happy you're here today.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm thrilled to be with you today.
So just in getting started, let me ask you, do you experience getting older? And if you do, what is that experience? And if you don't, why is it that you think that you don't?
Well, I'm a little complicated on that because clearly I'm getting older because I can tell by who's reflected back to me in the mirror. I feel like I'm 45 on the inside. And if you saw my picture, you would clearly know I'm almost 70. So there's a disparity there. But I think youthfulness is on the inside. And that's what carries us through each day. My dad lived to be 100, and he slowed down when he was 95. And the last 5 years were slower than any of his other years previously. So I think I had youthfulness modeled to me. And I don't have time, honestly, to get bogged down by a number. And I'm a proponent of eating well, staying hydrated, napping, exercising, and having purpose. And I think those are things that take me to live a life beyond my quote unquote years.
Oh, I love that, Betsy. A lot of what you said there's this wonderful book now I'm just listening to, and I have the book, but I am listening to it, Ageless Aging.
You're the second person to mention that book. I think
you need to get it. It is really good. And it's chock full of facts, and it's chock full of practical things to do. And everything you said is what she says to do. And one of the things everybody now is highlighting is sleep.
Oh, Yes, yes. My coach, I did a 10-day retreat. 5 days was writing, 5 days was silence. That was challenging. But to be silent for 5 days, to be in the house with my husband and our dogs and not talk, and to know I was really off the radar. Sarah, I've had a really hard 5 years. What I discovered was my nervous system recalibrated by being silent because no one needed me and no one had access to me. And what happened is I realized that taking a nap every day, some days it's only a 20-minute nap, and sometimes it's like 2 hours. But I have the sustaining energy throughout the day. And honestly, I had a personality change because I wasn't tired all the time.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. I'm thinking about your 5 days of silence. I, for years, did many silent meditation retreats, and a lot of them I did at a place called Spirit Rock, which was north of San Francisco. And I would be there for 1, 2, 3 weeks, and we would be in silence. And then when it was over, I would get in my car and start down the highway to go home. And I felt battered by
Yeah.
stimuli. And usually I'm not aware of that, but it was just a cacophony of sound and sight and colors and odors. And I was just, and I thought, no wonder I'm so exhausted all the time.
It's a barrage. It's a barrage of input. And I think taking a nap is really important. The book that has, to get back to your ageless aging, there's a book I'm reading, and I just want to put a plug in for it. It's by Gladys McGarry, and it's called The Well-Lived Life, 103-year-old doctor's 6 secrets to health and happiness at every age. It has so supported. I'm coming off of a cancer journey. I was diagnosed last July, and I just realized for me, I had a very clear path I was to take for healing. And I think naps are very much a part of that protocol for me.
And give us the name of that author and book again, because people probably will want it, including me.
Okay, it's Gladys, and her last name is McGarey. She's a doctor, and it's called The Well-Lived Life. But she's 103. I watched a YouTube she did last year at 102, and I thought, I want what she has because she was so articulate and so clear and well spoken and so passionate about her calling, even at 102. And I'm going, okay, I want to be in her camp.
And we all know this. If we don't know this, we're not paying attention. That one of the things people say, in addition to sleep, is have a purpose that you're really committed to. And I think that is so important. I was thinking something you said when you were talking before, Betsy, and it really rang for me, was that youthfulness is inside. The feeling of youth, I forget what your sentence was exactly, but something like that. And I love that because I think that's true. Our bodies, we can take really good care of them. We can eat well, we can drink a lot of water, we can sleep, we can exercise, but our bodies will age. I mean, things happen to our cells, and just as time goes, they just get older. Some people faster than slower, but they get older. Um, but it doesn't happen inside of who we really are, of who we feel like we are.
What do you identify with? And I identify with me at 45. And, one of the things I heard this in my 40s, and so maybe that's why I identify with this age, is one of the most important things you can do in your middle years is to get down on the floor every single day. And my kids were probably in their teens when I was in my 40s. Yeah, they were. And So you're not on the floor all that often. But the thing is, it requires so much strength and balance. And I wasn't on the floor that much. And so I made an effort every single day to get on the floor and to roll around so that I was developing my whole body and my core and my back and my arms and my hips. And I sound like this is an organ recital telling you all of my ailments, but I had my hip replaced during COVID, and I rebounded really quickly. I had a mastectomy. I rebounded really quickly because I use all parts of my body. I swim, I do Pilates, I walk, but I'm not just my legs, I'm not just my arms, I'm not just my belly. I'm integrated. And so getting down on the floor and getting back up, because as you get older, the risk of falling is so much higher than when you're more youthful. And I realized that I don't want to lose that resilience, that balance, and that spry capacity to be flexible. And I think that's a really good tip, is to get down on the floor every single day. And I have two very large dogs that are not allowed on the bed. So clearly I'm on the floor, every day with them. So whatever you have to do to make that work for you, I think it's really important.
I was just, before you said that, I was just thinking, well, I bet your dogs would love it, you being on the floor every day.
I'm covered with dog hair when I get up, but that's what washing machines are for. I call it canine confetti.
Yep, that's right. I don't have my kitty cat anymore, but when I had him, he was an orange cat, and I like to wear a black fleece jacket. And I always, people would say, "You have a pet." I said, "Yes, I do have a pet, and I take him with me wherever I go because I would be covered with orange cat hair."
Well, you still carry him with you.
Oh yeah, he's with me every day. He's with me every day. So, Betsy, tell us some things you're doing now that are most meaningful to you. You have a wonderful full life. What's most meaningful to you?
Having the perspective of beating cancer, conquering cancer, my priorities are very different. And my family has always been a top priority. Now it's not just a top priority, it's treasured. I have a new level of treasuring my family and my friends. You and I were just at a conference, and connecting with people is so important to me. And I believe that that's where the impact in life, that's the juiciness, that's the purpose in life. And I have a very well established coaching practice. I've been a coach for 15 years. My major modality is strength finders, so helping people understand what's right with them. But like you, I'm always working to how can I expand and broaden my impact, my reach, my knowledge base, and how do I integrate that in a way that I can pass that on, not just knowledge, but wisdom. And so I'm in two certifications two coaching certifications right now, in addition to strength finders. And I'm so excited because I wasn't ready to expand a few years ago with my modalities and my understanding of human behavior. And I believe this is like a three-legged stool now. And I believe there's a balance and an integration that I knew I didn't have quite handled yet. And so now it feels so juicy. It feels so good. I'm absolutely stimulated beyond belief. That's why I need to take naps every day. But it feels really good. And the impact that it's having with my clients, I'm going, it worked for me. And now I can see the fruit of it working in the lives of other women. I think I coach women in their 40s and their 50s differently than I coach women in their 60s. And I really believe that in that 30-year range, I can adapt and adjust more effectively.
I think there is, because I'm experiencing a bit of what you just said. I think if we pay attention, I think there is a point in our lives when things we've done up to this point, whatever this point is for anyone, start to coalesce, and we suddenly see that they're sort of all related. And that, I guess that's not surprising, because what was of interest to us is what we pursued. And so it's not surprising that at some point it all sort of comes together. But I didn't see that for a while. I mean, they were just things I really was interested in. And now all of a sudden I see how they they're not the same, but they're related. They're coming together. And I think that's really exciting. I think that that may be part of a definition of wisdom.
Well, it is the definition of wisdom, because the shortened version of wisdom is pattern identification. So we are able to take what seems like it's not related, disparate, not connected, and with our life experience and our wisdom and our, juicy old chronism, we're able to see how all these things come together, and it's like cogs in a wheel, and it moves people along faster and more effectively in a more meaningful and impactful way, I believe. Or that's my experience with my clients.
I love that. I think I'm trying to think, I can't think what modality did Fritz Perls just bring about into the world? I'll think of it. And anyway, I'll come back to it. I just can't think of it right now. So tell me, what differentiates you as a transformational coach from other people who say they're transformational coaches?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you for asking me that. Okay, so when I first started coaching, I've always had a lot of hope. And hope is a lousy business strategy. And my very first coach that I ever worked with, like 16 years ago, before I became a coach, she had a term called active hope. And what I love about active hope, it isn't just sitting on your couch, twiddling your thumbs, waiting for your ship to come in. Hope is every day sending out more ships every day. And then going down to the wharves and checking the horizon to see what's coming in. Because hope isn't just something in the future, which I think that's what most people think. It's like, oh, it'll be coming down the road. But hope is the surge you get right now when you have that idea. It's the right now, and it's the future. So it's a now and future thing. So when we put wheels on hope, it becomes active hope. I want to share a quote with you. Dr. Shane Lopez says, hope is the belief that the future will be better than the present. Okay, so that's now and looking forward. But along with the belief that I have the power to make it so. So it's not only just now and future, it's an understanding of who you be and understanding your competencies and saying, oh, I got this. I got this now, and I will have everything I need now and going forward to make this a reality. And so hope is a lousy business strategy. Active hope is an incredible business strategy. I have this idea about active hope it's called the AAA effect, like those little batteries that give us tons of energy that become the energizing battery, energizing bunny. The AAA effect is, the first A is awareness. So we have heightened awareness, something's amiss, something's not lined up, or a wisdom hits us with like a sledgehammer, and we go, oh, my eyes are open to this. I've woken up to it. The second step is acceptance. Oh, I have cancer. I understand why this has been going on, blah, 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 blah. But I accept it. I don't resist it. I go, oh, I'm doing this now. And the third step is, based on the awareness, based on the acceptance, what's the action? What's the one thing I can do today to get me closer to what's waiting for me, down the road? Now, I've screwed up my AAA modality because there's a fourth A, and I was thinking 4A doesn't sound as good as AAA. But what greases the wheels of this AAA effect is anticipation. that expectancy. It's that spark of hope in the moment that carries us through to the future. So it's awareness, acceptance, and action. And then it goes back right through that whole circle again, because there's this anticipation of like something good is coming. And that, I think, is what changes our ho-hum today and makes it a juicy future. And that's where the transformation comes from, because transformation is life changing. We've all had that person who has deposited their wisdom into us, and it's changed our life. It's changed our perspective. And I know that hope isn't enough. It has to have wheels on it. And that's why taking people through this process who say, I'm stuck, well, you know what? Because we're hoping someone else will be our rescue. And active hope says, I understand, I can learn if I don't understand now, but I have the competencies and the passion to learn and to grow. It doesn't mean it'll happen just like that, but we have the patience because we know it's there, and we're capable. We're more than capable.
I have this vivid image of, I love that hope is not a business strategy. That is wonderful, because I have trouble with people saying, you've got to know your purpose. You've got to know your purpose. You've got to know your purpose. I think our purpose changes all the time. So, I have trouble with that. And it's not enough to have a purpose. And so it's not enough to have hope. And I have this image when you were talking about the circle of those big wheels on a train going forward. So the image is not sitting in the station waiting for something to happen and hoping that the journey goes well. You've got to get moving. Just a vivid image. I thought of this word I wanted, Betsy, and it was the gestalt. And I have a sense of getting to a point in life where you're closing the gestalt. And that's sort of what I feel like right now. And I know it doesn't last. It won't last. There will be something that will come down the pike, and I will get fascinated with that. And it will come along, but I think things are in constant change. And so it won't be static.
So here's the image I get, Sarah. We always talk about in the coaching process, we're going to peel back the layers on the onion. We're going to excavate. We make it sound like we have to get to the heart of it. And I would like to change that metaphor and say that every new interest, insight, competency is adding a layer to our onion. And I think we need to be talking about adding to instead of taking away all the time. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And I'm going to think about that, because everybody talks about getting to the core, peeling back, and so forth. And I'm just going to think about what changes if we think about, we're both doing things that the audience can't see, because we're peeling back onions, we're adding to onions. But
that's therapy. Getting to the core. Coaching is in the present and future.
And going forward.
I'm not a therapist.
No, I'm not a therapist either.
Clearly not a therapist. So I don't want to go back into your past. I'm not qualified. But I can see who you be. That's one of my superpowers. And I can get you. And how can we add to that so that it's expansive as opposed to restrictive?
Yes. I love that, Betsy.
Sorry, I had to interrupt you just to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Whatever I was saying wasn't necessary. So, have you made any major pivots in your life? I guess the answer to that is yes.
Next question. Oh, Sarah, I'm the queen of pivots. My father he kept saying, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to settle down? Like, when are you going to think? And it just made me laugh. When I was 23, I bought my first franchise. I bought a franchise at 23 in 1978. I'm going, I, I, there's no industry for this, but I really believe in this purpose. So I had a degree in community health education and nutrition. I'm still in college and I bought a diet center. Well, it was just Weight Watchers. And Weight Watchers wasn't really in a household word. So like my father-in-law and father are going, what? People are going to pay you to help them lose weight? Are you crazy? So then I get married, then I have kids, and I raised my kids for a couple of years, and I've always been an artist. And my husband and I did military painting, we did commercial painting, private painting, private clients. And a client asked, can you make my table look like a piece of marble? Well, it's called faux finishing. But back in that day, everyone was calling it fox finishing. And I'm going, well, of course we can. And so neither Archie nor I knew how to do that. So we went to San Francisco and I took on this whole business for 35 years. Archie and I did faux finishing, specialty wall and furniture finishes for people. Talk about, it's not a high need for everyone to have painted walls and finishes, but for some reason we were successful at that. And I had just had a bike accident. I went over the handlebars and had a concussion, broke my hand, had surgery, broke my teeth. We were doing a big project and it wasn't like I could just stop the project. So I have a cast and I've had surgery. I've got a big rubber glove on it. I'm on a scaffold that's 2 stories high. And I'm blending in the paint from the ceiling to the wall with a little chip brush in my bandaged hand. And I dropped the chip brush. I was like, oh. So I had to walk down the scaffold. I got the chip brush, went to the top of the 2-story scaffold, and I got vertigo at the top of the scaffold. And I'm going, whoa, you know what? We've put all of our eggs in one basket. This is silly. And I had this inner desire to speak. I was born with a microphone in my hand. And at the end of the day, I at dinner, I said, Arch, you know what? I think I need to step out of this because we're not getting any younger. And I almost fell off the scaffolding. So I went for a walk with my friend. This is the power of a really good question. And that's what coaching is all about. I was walking with my friend and she said, Betsy, what's your favorite nickname? And I'm in a crisis. I don't know what I'm going to do if I'm not doing faux finishing and painting and interior design. I stopped and I thought, well, what does that have to do with the price of eggs? I'm in a crisis and you're asking me what my favorite nickname is? I was also a field hockey coach at the time, like one of the many things I've done. And I thought about it. It wasn't mom. It wasn't honey. It wasn't, squash blossom or any of that stuff. It was coach. I said, that's my favorite nickname. It's coach. And it was in that moment that I realized I was destined. I've always been a coach. I was a color coach. I was a weight loss coach. I was, an artist coach, all that stuff. And I realized that's my calling. And it's just a different expression. So when we stay true to who we are, it may be expressed in different ways, but it doesn't depart from who we are at our core. And so I have this little bumper sticker that I give everybody: be true to you. At the end of the day, always be true to you. Because you know what? Be yourself. Everyone else is taken is a great Oscar Wilde quote. But that really was a quote that formulated me as an adult. I always sought what maybe wasn't predictable or logical. But Sarah, I use every single pivot I've ever made has added value to who I am right now and my ability to relate to people with different interests and vocations and philosophies or faiths or political views, because everything I've done up until this point now is useful. the good and the bad.
I think one of the mistakes we make is thinking that things aren't logical. That what you did from time to time, pivot or whatever, was not logical. Well, not logic in the sense of if A plus B then C. I mean, not logic that we've been taught logic, but there is an inherent logic, I believe, in everything you've done, because it's all related in some way and brought you to this point. So there is a logic there.
So can I use a visual illustration?
Sure.
So when I worked with interior designers to go and do specialty finishes on walls and, furniture and all that sort of stuff, the designers would have me come in and talk to the client because, Sally is really insecure about her capacity to match colors and to do design and all that sort of stuff. So she gets Ruth to remodel her kitchen. And then she gets Gwen to remodel her master bathroom. And then she gets Lisa to remodel her family room. Well, all three of those designers have a different vision and a different bias. So you walk into her house and it looks like Donald Duck's house because everything is fighting each other because it's a different, different everything. And so I would go in and designers loved it because if they got one room, they got the whole house. Because they said, here's the thing. You have a plumb line that shows you what is true, what's right for you. And if you'll trust that and just you ask questions so that you can have that true plumb line, that will make all the difference in the world. And so when a designer got a client, they could go through their whole house and redecorate and redesign the whole home because there was continuity, because it was based on the client's taste and their desire for their home. Did they want it to be a showcase? Did they want it to be a safe haven? What were they going to use their house for? And so when you get really clean and clear and let that be the plumb line, you won't yaw to the left or to the right. You will stay straight on the path that's designed for you. And all of us have different paths. I learned, we say everybody is different. But with this cancer journey, I realized every body is different. And I can't write a script for anybody of how they're supposed to navigate cancer. Oh, no. You need to do what I did. You need to do what I did. I can't do that. And it's offensive when we do that to others because we miss them on a soul level. And we're communicating, you know what? You're dumber than dirt. You can't figure out your own life. And I think that more people need to be acknowledged as being competent. They may need counsel. They may need the wisdom of someone else. But at the very core and essence of who they are, they have their own unique brilliance. And we just need to bring that out and give them the courage to step and live into that on a daily basis and keep it at a sustainable level. Because life has lots of ups and life has lots of downs. And when we stay true to ourselves, we can't help but live authentically. And it's not for you and me to judge how someone else is living their life.
No, and it's just the way that the quote coaching business, unquote, is not one size fits all. Neither is the healthcare system.
Bingo.
Which actually, sort of tongue in cheek, but not entirely, I am now referring to as the sick care system, because I don't believe it is healthcare. I value our healthcare system for some things. Anyway, that's a whole different topic. So, Betsy, tell me, as a final thing here, how do you deal with being, or do you deal with being, or what do you hear from your clients, your women clients, about being an older woman in our society right now?
It is what we make it. There's the saying, it is what it is. And I don't agree with that. It is what we make it. And you and I were just in a conference, and you and I were in the top 1% for the age bracket that we're in. And I love hanging with the women who are in their 40s and their 50s. I think for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, but to be silent with what I've learned. I'm not the smartest person out there, but I'm not the dumbest either. And I believe that if we will listen, we will find ways to connect with other people, and we can share that wisdom. We can share the stories. Dad was 100 and he was still telling stories up until his death. And the thing I miss the most is his presence and his stories. We're in a wonky time of life, just with everything that's going on. And how I wish I could sit down and have a cup of tea with my dad and get his perspective, hear his stories of how, during World War II, and it gives me courage. It gives me hope. It gives me insight. It gives me perspective. And I think that if we don't hold perspective as something as a beautiful thing, we get so stagnant, self-righteous, and right. And, there's always room to grow. And I think that's what aging gets to be.
I just think about one of the things you said, Betsy, was that you enjoyed talking to women in their 20s, 30s, 40s at the conference. And what I have discovered is they enjoy talking to you too.
Yeah.
I deal with gendered ageism. That's my deal. If we will just have intergenerational conversations, that is the best way we can deal with ageism, both directions.
Yeah.
And just to get used to the fact that we have a whole lot more in common than we think. And there are some real differences that can be instructive both ways.
Well, I need my kids to tell me how to navigate, IT. And if it wasn't for them, I would be lost. And there's so much to be learned from the younger generations, as much as there is for them to learn from us. There has to be a reciprocity. But Sarah, if you think about it, that transcends age. That's just called respect.
Yep. Agree. Oh, Betsy, this has been wonderful. We have to come to an end now. So I am sure people are going to want to get in touch with you. And when they want to do that, how can they do that?
They can go to my website, which is coach2strengths.com. And that's coach, the number 2. And then it's STRENGTHS. So it's strengthsplural.com. And there are ways for you to set up time if you want to have a complimentary call. I've got grace cards. I've got an accountability journal. You can sign up for newsletters. So many different things you can do. But that's a great place for you to go to get resources. And if this has stimulated some sort of thought or whatever, I'd love to have a conversation with you. And Sarah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Betsy. This has been absolutely delicious and delightful and a huge gift. So that's our time today. Please join us again. You can find our Prime Spark podcast on every popular outlet. Find out more about Prime Spark at primesparkwomen.com. Thank you so much to my guest, Betsy Clark. And don't forget, you can find her at coach2, the number 2, strengthsplural.com. Thank you for being with us. Spread tolerance and love. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to stay updated, you can head over to my website, primesparkwomen.com, and get my free Spark Guide, 7 questions to ignite your spark, to help you discover your own spark. See you in the next episode.